All right, we're going to try to do a few connections here and see if we can't find out more about this Enki character. And in doing so, what we're going to do is look up Pluto and Hades and, well, Neptune too and Poseidon. And let's see if we can attach these guys all and see how that they even had an attachment to them. Pluto in old Greek mythology is really not that bad a guy. In fact, he's a great, great guy. You can look this up, Pluto. He's been given the last planet, hasn't he? Out there in the end of nowhere. Whenever somebody, by the time that Enlil took over and decided to tell everybody what the hell was going on, he got the end planet and the raw stick of the deal on all the cultures that were taught after that. After Mesopotamia, and he came up with the idea of making him into the devil. So, Pluto, though, doesn't have quite the devil connection. The devil thing really was something invented by us much later, and then it got worse and worse through Christianity and everything, and boy, how bad could I make it that I could threaten you with? So, let's go back to an origins type thing onto it. They were afraid to utter Pluto's name because you could incur his wrath, or he could go ahead and just take you, and then you'd go to where he was. Well, where is he at? Well, it said, look right here, he was referred to first of all as Dispater, and you've heard it as Dispater, and oh, that's the guy with the trident, with the fork. That's the Dispater, right? That's Satan. Okay, well, who is Dispater? Well, Dispater's actually, it means father of the gods. And he's actually Neptune there, isn't he? And if you believe the original account, Enki's not white, Enki's not black. Enki has a rich tan that he gets in the sun because they talk about it and stuff. Not near as rich as the tan on Gilgamesh, who becomes near mahogany, but in a beautiful color when he sweats and all that stuff. But he gets real darker red. I don't know how you would call it. Well, I never saw the red in anybody. I don't see the black in black people. They're brown, but and I don't see yellow in Chinese people except okay, whatever. Kind of an olive skin, almost like Italian people. Oh, whatever. Um, Anyhow, points of view, things, colors. Maybe I'm a little colorblind, and I don't know. But maybe that's a good thing. But red. Indians were red. The American Indians. They're red. They're redskins and stuff. But I've seen a lot of colored pictures of them, and I don't get the red thing out of it. But they do look kind of like the India Indians. And that's funny how when we thought we came over here, we came all the way around and ran into the India. East India Trading Company that never went to India. It actually went to America. It's East India Trading Company. But that's way back, way up in the future. But anyhow, those people are a reddish color, so maybe he had a lot to look like that. Maybe he was an India type of guy. To this day, quite a few of those are doctors, and that's what Enki was. He was a doctor, a scientist, and so on, and knew all about the stars and everything. Well, what does Pluto do? Well, he lives in the underworld. He lives in the bottom half. And whenever the deal was struck, whenever Jupiter died, when Anu died, whenever the new deal was struck, they were going to split it up in half. And there was an agreement on that and everything. And then there's that trick of words I've told you about before a few times. Well, the trick of words is that he's going to get half. And this starts one of the trick of words. And no, wait, the trick guy has got to be Enki. He's the trickster. He's Loki or whatever. No, well, you come to find out that everything gets lopped on him. And listen, I want to tell you, I'm not trying to make anybody think that they're a devil worshiper or anything crazy like that. This guy that was supposed to run the underworld is Enki. this guy that was supposed to run the underworld is apparently Satan, if you want to lump him all together with it. I come to find out that he was in the Bible. It even tells you he's Gadriel, because it said he was the one that escorted him out of the Garden of Eden, and he's also the one that tempted Eve. So that's Gadriel. So that'd actually be Ninurta who had done that. So there's an attachment on how the Bible actually doesn't have it up here. It's got it the second level thing where it comes off. Well, it just doesn't have the part before it. They kind of go around, make all the animals, got the people going, and went with it. Well, why couldn't you tell the story about the whole thing before that, about the Agigi miners and everybody revolting and the thing like that? Oh, they came up with that later. Just in case anybody made connections, it's all the angels in heaven and they all crashed. Well, in the Sumerian story, 1/3 of the Agigi miners, 1/3 of the people that were there, the Agigi miners revolted. There was 200 of them. And, oh, that's exactly what it would have been in the angels, too. There was 200 fallen angels out of 600. That's 1/3. So there's 600. So, in the Bible, there's not just one lonely God standing around in a garden he created and tries to make something. There's 600 people there. 599. 598, there's a snake. That snake, by the way, is Enki, his brother. And in here, Pluto is the brother of, he's the half-brother. And that's exactly the way it is in the thing. He's the half-brother of Zeus that was created. And he's Dispater. He's got that trident. Well, so who is this? Well, the Roman counterpart to that is Hades, but we'll get to that in a minute. They're combined together and encompass Dispater, because Hades is a darker guy than Pluto. Has a darker thing that goes on. He's a little bit more a doom, type thing going on, whereas Pluto is like going to take you actually to your place that you're going to live for eternity. It's actually better of a job than this job, because this job you only get to mess with people when they're alive. The other job, you get to be the king of everybody who ever lived. So he took that job, especially since he was the half-son of Anu, or An, and this guy was the main son. He was going to do it, so it's really like lucky that he got a deal out of it. Well, you can tell after they left, or Anu died, that he didn't like that idea after Jupiter died. So you have Zeus take over, and then of course you have Dispater. You have the trident, Dispater, Hades, who gets lopped in with Pluto. So the Greek people had a pretty good idea of what was going on and how not so bad it was. Hades, you can tell on the Romans, and I guess you could tell easily from later on who tried to kill who and who was oppressing who later, just shortly after that, as to who might be over which one and who would be under each other. So whenever he gets half the world, and An dies, then he goes, yeah, I'm going to give you half. I went up looking around where I'm going to cut it at. Oh no, aren't we going to get half of all of the Babylonian people, and then it's going to kind of be like, I got everything that way, you got everything this way? No. No. He flew craft. Now check this out. Here's where they have the round thing. Everybody's like, oh, it's flat and everything. It tells you where he flew craft around the world from where he wanted to be at. When they met again, that was going to be the part. He did that, and Enlil and Enki were standing there, and then he said, everything south of here is yours. So he hit the equator, basically. And he went around the world. Funny, this is mimicked by Jupiter and the Zeus story, because Zeus, to find the navel of the world, took and released doves, and they went around the world, and wherever they met up at the other part and became a partner again, that was the belly button of the world. And so he must have actually went over to South America and let these things go, huh? You know, like the other side of the world from where I am is China. So if I was right now and I let them loose and then I went after them, where they'd meet up is be China, and China would be the belly button of the world. Whatever's on the equator around in that spot as you're going around. So it could have been Ecuador. He was in Ecuador when he did it. I wonder what's exactly on the other side of Ecuador. Might be pretty cool if you looked at that. So, anyhow, he gets the bottom half. This is the overworld. This is the underworld. But don't worry about any of that. You know how you get everybody whenever they die. I'm going to make everybody fear death real bad, because they're going to go to a bad place, because I'm not going to give them the opportunity to even make it into my heaven. Brother, what are you doing? I'm making hell. 666. And it's your ass. Now, which one, if you looked at the attitudes that are being projected right here, which one's the ass? Which one's the devil? And which one was like, okay. But yet he's not. In fact, he tells you in the Bible that he's going to make enmity between the people and the serpent, and you're the serpent, and I'm going to make you into the devil. I'm going to make people hate you. So he ends up taking over the Greeks eventually, and as soon as he does, they wrap their things in, and I got you with that devil thing again with Hades. Well, what does Pluto do? Well, Pluto, whenever you go to hell, you do the same thing as the Egyptians. It's not anything bad at all. You have to go down there, though, and then you got to pay a ferryman. That's where that comes from. And you have to go across the river Styx. And once you cross across the river Styx, then you're in hell. No, you've got to go down through there, and then you meet up at a big walled area with gates. And, oh, I guess it's like the pearly gates, huh? And you get to go in and stuff, and right there's this castle, a beautiful palace made of lapis lazuli and silver, and well, it sounds like heaven. Yeah, well, you don't go in there though. You can, but instead of it being a house kind of thing like in the Bible, that's the palace, and that's where Pluto lives. Hell, Satan, woo. Well, it doesn't sound like he. No. It's not the Adam's house, is it? It's not the Frankenstein's villa, is it? But he has Elyssian fields. What's that? Well, you probably do yourself a good thing. Just look up Elyssian fields. It's fields and meadows. A good way to describe it is if you've ever seen The Sound of Music. That is Elyssian fields. And there's villages and cottages and places to hang around and stuff. And supposedly, if you go over a couple of hills, you meet the other people that were good from the other places, and they have their spot. And I've just got a stinking suspicion they got real nice golf courses that attach each one. But that's my own thing. So he's got a palace. He's got a ferryman you got to pay and get there and everything, and da-da-da. And but you just pay the ferryman because it makes it a much easier journey than you having to go way down and go across a bridge that could lead to trouble. So you just do this thing, and he's the one that's directed to lead you right there. so you don't go through a bunch of bullshit on the way there. The 5 things that you could, I think, is what it was. I think it was 7 in the Hades deal, so they put that together, and then they made it worse, and they put Dispater on top of it. He's got the forked prongs. Well, who the hell is that? Well, in the Greek guy, that's Neptune. You know, he's always got the 3-pronged thing. He's Maharishi with a 3-prong crown. What is that? Well, Neptune is Dispater, and that's into Hades now. And so now you can see where we get a red devil from with a pitchfork. Yeah. I'm going to make enmity between you and people. I'm going to make people hate you. I'm going to make you into the devil. And so he, you know, and I love the Bible and I love God and everything. It's just that's not who we're talking about, apparently. Look at this vindictive things that are going on. And you can tell it's a rat between brothers. Me and my brother had rats and stuff, but I love him, you know, in a special way. I don't know even how this exists except for this from this vindictive son of a bitch that's there. Because Enki sure's not. He kind of has the Hippocratic oath of a doctor and a scientist, and sure wouldn't be wanting to do the wrong thing. But the other guy is more of a commander of war, a master of the air, and does not take shit off anybody. Sounds like a jarhead. Sounds like my dad. No, my dad was pretty cool outside his shell whenever he was back in the service, and after he got, you know, out of that, it was fine. But yeah, it reminds me of service people where, you know, drill instructor kind of situations, or people that really had a Patton kind of thing going on or whatever to it, you know. But I don't want to compare Patton to the guy that did so much wrong because he's done so much good, but I'm just talking about a leader quality and the way that they want to, you know, and well, they had to kill everybody to set the war right, you know, because if they kill us, then what? And therein lies why Enki was forced to fight back, you know. Enki had to fight back, so this is getting up here a little bit, you know, close to 20 minutes again, but this was one of the more important ones. Well, the devil's a pretty important topic, and guess who he is? He's the half-brother of the guy that up under, so Zeus is, you know, Jupiter had 2 kids, 3, if you want to say these were twins, and there was one over here, and one of those is Zeus, and the other 2 boys are duped together. One of them is the land, and the other one is the water. The land is Pluto, and the water is Neptune, and everybody knows that. And well, what happened? Well, so Pluto's the land. Yeah, well, they turned it around and threw his ass into the abyss whenever he came and took over, decided to take over everything. Look into, you know, the Olympic thing. You'll actually see this. This is what happened. So, well, that's the Enlil story, isn't it? Yeah. Oh, it's also the story out of the Bible how he chunked him down to the abyss, the Abzu, which would have been Africa, which is down on the second half of the thing. See, the sad thing there, the reason he's the god of the ocean and stuff, if you look at the Earth and you cut it in hemisphere, short of Australia and at bottom of Africa, bottom of South America, you know, there's really not much land. You look at it and it's like, oh, we got half of it, but I'm basically all water and you're all land. Yeah. Yeah, and your land kind of sucks down there at the bottom, too. Yeah, both of them are just desert shits. Well, after the big war, there's a desert shit running through the middle of everything. Because it used to be real fertile. It used to be real fertile. There's accounts where whenever they came up to see the pyramids, how the grasslands and all this stuff, you know, it's no grass over there anymore now at all. And it used to rain and things. There was somebody, it wasn't Alexander the Great, it was somebody that had gone down there, like Anthony and Cleopatra, and he got rained on during this thing. And you're like, man, it never rains in sunny Southern California. What you talking about? Yeah, he says it again on the thing on the way out or something. He's like, it rain on again, you know. And it's always trouble with the animals when we get rained on, trying to pull this wagon train type of situation. Makes you want to stop. Wish I knew it was going to rain. No weather forecaster good enough to tell you what's going to happen tomorrow or the next day, you know. They're pretty good though. Back then, they could give you a pretty good heads up about what was coming for some reason. But anyhow, um, so Neptune married somebody, and he stayed there in the sea area or in the abyss area. So he didn't have to stay in the sea. He would have been with Ninharsag, and you would say that he married his half sister, and all these people were marrying their half sisters and stuff, and so did Zeus and all these things. But of course, Zeus screws around with people and stuff. Zeus makes all these other things, and let's see, Zeus had a niece named Persephone, and Proserpina, I think is what it was the other one, but Persephone, and so that's Persephone. And so, who's Persephone? Well, she was a happy little beautiful woman, and she was out collecting fields, and it said that her uncle Pluto came up and he took her as a concubine and took her back there, but she didn't like it. So she hung around with him, and she didn't want to eat. So she waited like, you know, days and days. And after a week of crying and starving and stuff like that, that she couldn't stand it anymore, and she ended up eating 6 pomegranate seeds. And so she'd been there 7 days, and then she had 6 pomegranate seeds. And I don't know, there's your 666 thing or something where you can get some kind of thing out of it maybe. But in 7 days she was there, but not 3. But she was there for 7 days. She couldn't stand it anymore, and she ate pomegranate seeds. And then it said back then that if you go down to hell, if you eat anything, that you won't be able to come back. And that echoes the Sumerian tale when Adama goes up to heaven, not hell, and he can't eat of their food or drink of their drink because it's the immortality in the thing. And if he does, that he might die. And that's what Enki and them tell him, is because they don't know what it's going to do if he does it, because he's really half a monkey. And I should have took some of this stuff and give it to a monkey and see if it freaks him, but you don't give that shit to a monkey. So I'm going to suggest you don't eat it. Well, Anu was so impressed with him after he had knocked the wings off of the eastern wind, which would have been Nengal. So apparently they got into a tuzzy, and he knocked the shit out of her, and it acted like it was a battle up in the in spacecraft too. It's not, and she toppled to the ground and all this type of stuff and everything. And if you look it up, there's another thing, and that's Adam. Adam's riding around in the spaceship. That's real important. I could make a whole one on that one, but Anu is so impressed with him that he wants to give him immortality and more knowledge, and he's told by him not to do it, so he disses it, and he won't eat or drink and everything, and he leaves. And that's where man loses their chance at immortality in their tale. In our tale, if you'll look at it, it's weird, but oh yeah, in the other one too, after he denies the food and denies the drink, and he tells him how smart he tells him how smart he already is, and it was like bravado about how you create him, and he already had that. And then he says, well, if he's that smart, then we should get him out of here before he gets to have ultimate knowledge and stuff too. And there's whispers on the fact that if we made him immortal, then eventually he would be he would take over part of the bloodline of us, and that they don't agree with that. He's a created half being that shouldn't have that effect to him. So get him out of here. But I love him. That's fantastic. Did you say he killed 2 birds with 1 stone? Yeah, I saw that on a tablet and everything. And that's Adam. Yeah, he killed 2 birds with 1 stone. I don't know how it works out, but yeah, 2 birds with 1 stone. That's what it said. It says it. Anyhow, Two bird, one stone. Um, Pretty neat. Um, so Adam's got some wit to him, but and he's also real smart and everything. Anyhow, so she eats of the seeds, and so what's odd about this? This echoes the tale of Demuzi, because she's allowed to come back for half the year, and that's during the winter when everything dies. Or she goes there for the winter, and that's when everything dies. And then when she comes back, she hearkens spring. Or actually, the gods make spring, so when she comes back, it's pretty. But she hearkens spring. In other words, if she's coming back, spring's got to hit. And when's he going to let her out? And there used to be old stories about, we have stories about the gopher. And if he's going to tell you when it's going to happen and stuff. And their old stories like, when's she going to let her out? Seriously. And so that echoes the Demuzi thing and stuff. And in fact, it totally echoes it, because he got to have her during the winter time. During the summer, she was up there. And it was better for her that way, too, because it was so hot down there. And that you would see her in the wintertime. You see that effect, too. And she's also the morning star. And so she would be over here, and then she disappears. And then she's over here, and she disappears and comes back. So now we're putting, oh man, now we're putting all these people as Satan, aren't we? Well, give us a minute, and there's a few other guys like Ninja Gal and people that we're going to put down there, and we're going to make them part of the hierarchy of hell. Even in the Sumerian stuff, that's the people that were down there helping. And later in the Bible, you find that Jesus goes and kills that serpent of 7 heads, and it's all 7 of these people that are down there with him in his craft and all the stuff that he set up, and they go and smoke. And Jesus does it with 3 helpers, a great and a mighty and a awesome sword. And they're said it to be 3 different things, like he has 3 arms or something like that. Oh, another weird thing right here before we end, because it's hitting on 30. So she apparently has pleased Pluto, and they're going to go back and forth. But it said that she's barren of children, and because she keeps swallowing them. Maybe perhaps instead of here, it's happening here. And that's the Greek look on it. You know how they are, flaunting it and all having sex and doing everything. But then that gets balled up into it. And the next thing you know, they've got gods that are eating their kids. See, that's over here, right? And you never know, but maybe even that whole story about Baal and feeding kids. I mean, I know they're real strict on the idea they saw kids being thrown in there and stuff. Well, the only thing I can find is that whenever kids were retarded and there was problems with them, and or children died from death, that they would, instead of giving him the regular birth, they would do this thing where they cremated him to give the soul back to God, so he could give him another one. It was the hopes of the parents. So that was for infant deaths and things like that. So I don't find that they were, cooking and eating kids at all. But eating kids might have a different, totally different meaning too. If you think about it, it would, and of course that kind of thing is forbidden in Catholics and stuff and everything. She's not supposed to swallow now. You're supposed to have sex, and you can't use contraception and stuff because you're stopping God's will. And and you're supposed to be fruitful and multiply, so that would be looking as bad. And so whenever they come back and they tell you, we went to that land there, and those people, they're doing all kinds of kinky sex, and they swallow their kids and stuff, and you don't get the reference at all, because they talk about knowing somebody. Well, you go there and you know somebody, and once you know them, they swallow their kids. And you're like, oh, so you went there and you got to know them, and you saw them swallowing children? No, you don't get the reference that I'm trying to give you and everything. And seriously, look at it now. That's all of a sudden turned off into, I think people were eating children and stuff. Oh wait, who was this? Well, oh, that's Elle. that's Enlil trying to make everybody think that you're the devil and you ate kids. And what's your sign back then? It's Taurus, the bull. Oh yeah, so now it's this big flaming thing like this, right, with these horns on it, and they feed kids to it, right? Oh man, you're the fucking devil. Oh, they're gonna ruin you. Well, yeah, but I was the king of Taurus, and oh man, they're gonna make bulls or devils. Anything with horns now because they've slapped that shit on you. By the way, your trident thing, it's the king of the water. I got that in there too. And people don't even catch it. And the fact that you're red skinned and you've got shit on fire and everything. On fire and you get burned? Where's that come from? You know when you got to go get the tar and asphalt and stuff? Yeah, but that's not. Oh man, brother, you're so mean. Wait till you see what happens next week whenever I send Yahweh to come, or Jehovah to come kill you after we have a great war. Well, that's not next week. I've got a whole lot of screwing with you and killing off half your people before I do that. Anyhow, people, that's a good view at it there. We'll attach that again too, but that surely can take some strings and run them across. And oh, that's one of those ones whenever you get these strings here and it attaches there, and then that goes to thing, and the Olympics get to come up, and oh, I puts my whole Bible thing with the deal, and it's still the same story. Yeah, and that's what I was getting at, is it's still the same story. We'll see y'all soon.